Welcome to DECIDE, the University of Auckland's Business Decision Making Lab. Laboratory procedures require that you receive instructions prior to your participation in the upcoming experiments in decision making. The experiments consist of a series of auctions in which you have the opportunity to earn money based on the bidding decisions you make in those auctions. The amount of money you earn depends in part on how well you understand and abide by the instructions that follow. First, some general information. You are about to participate in an experiment in the economics of market decision making in which you will earn money based on the decisions you make. Any money you earn is yours to keep and will be paid to you in cash at the end of the experiment. All units of account will be in experimental currency, which we call e-dollars. Upon conclusion of the experiment, your earnings will be converted into New Zealand dollars at an exchange rate displayed on the information page of your computer screen or advised by the person conducting the experiments. These earnings plus the show-up payment will be paid to you in private at the end of the experiment. Now to some specific instructions. The experiment consists of a series of independent periods in which you have the opportunity to acquire via an auction one or more items which will be referred to as blocks. There are 2 blocks available for sale in each period. Blocks are sold with either an L or a U characteristic. An L characteristic designates full private ownership of the block in question. In contrast, a U characteristic designates common ownership, in which the rights to use the corresponding block are shared with other parties. At the beginning of each period, you will be assigned a value in e-dollars that you place on each block depending on which characteristic the auction assigns to that block. For illustrative purposes, assume that at the beginning of the period you are assigned a set of block values and the financial budget as shown in Figure 1. In this instance, for example, you have a value of 200 if the auction assigns an L characteristic to block 1, but 0 value on that same block if the auction assigns a U characteristic to that same block. Each participant's assigned block values will generally differ across periods. Please take a moment to get familiar with the information in Figure 1. Remember, 2 blocks are being sold via an auction. Each block will have either an L or a U characteristic, and your value for the block with any associated characteristic is shown in Figure 1. The competitive bidding process. In each period, you have the opportunity to bid for each block conditional on the block having a particular characteristic, either L or U. Bidding occurs under an ascending price auction format. Figure 2 recreates the screen you will look at when you participate in the auction. The current price for each block, regardless of the characteristic, appears on the green box. As shown, there are 2 blocks available for purchase, 1 and 2. As shown also, each block and its associated characteristic has its own Place Bid button. If your value for a block and its associated characteristic is 0, you must not push the Place Bid button at any time. The auction proceeds in rounds. At the end of a bidding round, the price shown in the green box increases by a predetermined amount prior to the next round of bidding. For other blocks with a value greater than 0, at the time of price increase, you must decide whether or not you wish to continue bidding for that block at the new higher price. If you do wish to continue bidding at such a new higher price, do nothing. On the contrary, if you want to bid for a block and its associated characteristic, you must push the corresponding Place Bid button. From that moment on, you are prevented from bidding on that block and its associated characteristic for the remainder of the auction. To assist you in remembering the highest bid you placed in the auction for a block and its associated characteristic, the press place bid button will display the highest bid you placed on the block following the next increase in price. For example, as shown in Figure 3, following an increase in the block price from $190 to $200 the pressed bid button for block 2 characteristic U shows that your highest bid for that block is $130 and the button has remained at that value since you pressed it. At the conclusion of the auction, each block will be awarded to a particular bidder or a set of bidders depending on whether the block has been assigned either an L or a U characteristic. The price in the green box will cease rising and the auction will close when there are no remaining active bidders for any block. At the close of the auction, you will be told whether you have won one or more blocks, the characteristics of those blocks, and your earnings, if any. Note, you will incur a loss if the price you pay for your acquired block exceeds the value you have been assigned for that block. A loss incurred in a given auction will be deducted from your total earnings following the completion of the experiment. Bid types. A bid for a block associated with an L characteristic is referred to as an L-type bid, while a bid for block associated with a U characteristic is referred to as a U-type bid. Given the common ownership of a block that is assigned a U characteristic, the total bid for each block with a U characteristic is equal to the sum of all U-type bids placed for that block. After the close of the auctioneer will compare the highest L-type bid for each block with the total or aggregate U-type bid for each block and will accept the highest bid for each block. Winning bids. Based upon the submitted bids, the auctioneer identifies the market clearing price, which is equal to the highest overall price, including both L-type and U-type bids for each block that was not accepted. That is the highest losing bid. Participant payments and earnings. Participants whose bids are accepted will receive their value in experimental currency. Remember, we call them E-dollars. For each block, minus the price that they pay for their block, which is determined as follows. The price paid by participants whose acquired blocks are assigned an L characteristic is simple. It is the calculated market clearing price for that block. Things are more complicated for winning bidders whose blocks are assigned a U characteristic. In this case, the price that each winning U-type participant pays for a block is equal to the proportion of their contribution, that is, their own bid, to the winning aggregate bid times the market clearing price. If the sum of the U-type bids for a particular block represents the winning bid for that block, then all participants in the auction will receive their value for that block with the U characteristic minus their price as computed on the screen. If in the event of a tie for the highest bid, each of the winning bidders will receive the expected value of their earnings based on a random selection of the winning bid. We want to thank you for your participation in the auction, and we wish you the best for this experiment. Thank you.